Dear students, we are in the third part now. In the first two parts, we just introduced ourselves to what we mean by forest. We try to define what forest is. Defining a forest is very, very difficult. So, we just discovered four criteria with which we can call a particular land, large part of land, as a forest. Okay, right. Then we started classifying about the forest. We studied about three kinds of classification. The first classification is based on the density of the forest. So based on the density of the forest, we identified three kinds of forest. The first one is a very dense forest, second one is a dense forest, and third one is a open forest, and fourth one is a degraded forest. Okay, so four kinds of forest, and based on the classification of density. Okay, the second one, based on the administrative classification, we studied about three kinds of forest. The first one is reserved forest. Okay, so no one has got any control over the reserved forest, only the government. And the third one is a protected forest. Only people who are in the living there, the local people, mostly the tribals, they have got no little control over the protected forest, but still that protected forest comes under government's care. Okay, the third kind of forest is the unclassified forest, unclassed forest. Anybody can have control over the unclassed forest. Okay, right. Now third kind of classification is based on the vegetation. So vegetation means we have to talk about the climate now. So it is based on the climate. The vegetation differs. The kinds of trees or plants that grow, they differ based on the vegetation. Okay, now based on the vegetations in India, we identify some 5 kinds of forest. Based on the climate and vegetation, we identify 5 kinds of forest, and here we will study about those 5 kinds of forest. Okay, the first kind of forest or type of forest based on the vegetation is the tropical evergreen forest. The name itself suggests that evergreen. These kind of forests are always green throughout the year because of the heavy rainfall. Okay, so these forests are found in places where weather is very warm around the year, and there's a rain almost every month. Okay, so usually wherever we have rain that is up to 200 centimeter, then the tree always gets moistured. Okay, and there's a warmth for growing, and therefore throughout the year whatever trees that we find there, okay, so they are always very green, evergreen. Okay, so these forests are very dense. They are very dense forests, abound in many types of trees, plants, creepers, plants, and that grow on the trees, parasites and epiphytes. Okay, so this is all about the tropical green forest. Okay, the second type of forest that we classify based on vegetation is monsoon deciduous forest. It's very, very important for us. Okay, for us who are in Chhattisgarh, we all our state comes under this kind of forest. Okay, so monsoon forests are special to India because monsoon is actually special to India. Only we have monsoon. So every year, almost 3-4 months, we have good amount of rain because of the monsoon. Okay, and therefore based on our climate, monsoonic climate, we have the forest too. Okay, almost 70% of India's forest, they belong to this category. Almost 3/4 of our forest, they come under this category, monsoon deciduous forest. Okay, so here the annual rainfall is always between 75 centimeter to 200 centimeter, and we always studied that wherever we have that moisturous situation, climate, the trees, they grow very tall, very strong. They got broad leaves, and leaves are always green throughout the year. Okay, right. Now in a place during the time when the rain is very less, we call as a rain deficient month, when the rain is less, which means, see, now almost we have completed monsoon is over. Now slowly we are moving towards winter season, and therefore we are in a period of rain deficiency period. Okay, month. And therefore what happens now, here you will find all the trees, all the trees slowly they are shedding their leaves, okay, to reduce transpiration and loss and conserve the moisture. So in order to conserve the moisture, in order to leave these trees, they shed their leaves, so they will become very bare. Okay, right now. So because the trees shed their leaves in the dry months, these forests are called deciduous forest. So because the trees they shed their leaves in order to survive through the time of rain deficiency, okay, and then warm climate, so we call it as deciduous. So there is a monsoon wetness and deciduous when the tree decides to shed the leaves in order to live. Okay, so that is why we call this type of forest as monsoon deciduous forest. Now here this monsoon deciduous forests are divided into two categories. The first one is a moist monsoon. So when the monsoon brings so much of rain, we call it as a moist monsoon forest. Okay, but as opposite to that, when the monsoon brings less rain, when the rainfall is lower, then we call it as a dry monsoon. So mostly Chhattisgarh comes under the moist monsoon forest. Okay, the dry monsoon forest are usually found in the parts of MP, Maharashtra, and then Gujarat, okay, Rajasthan. So there we find the dry monsoon. So we will study about what moist monsoon forest and dry monsoon forest. So here you see these forests are found in areas where rainfall is between 100 centimeter to 200 centimeter. So moist monsoon forests are the place which always have annual rainfall of 100 to 200 centimeter. So there the trees grow very tall, and some trees are massive evergreen, and we have shrubs, creepers grow beneath them, which means trees are there, and beneath the trees there are so much of grass, shrubs, bushes, and so on. Okay, now these forests are found in most parts of Chhattisgarh. Okay, now these kind of moist monsoon forests are found in our state, most part of Chhattisgarh and eastern Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, Bengal, Odisha. Okay, so what all kinds of trees that we find in the moist monsoon forest we have here? See, we have sal tree, teak tree, shesam, amla, neem, mango, chandan, khair, kozum, arjun. So these kinds of trees they usually grow in the moist monsoon forest. Okay, right. Now these moist monsoon forest they are not as dense as the evergreen forest, the first type of forest. Okay, the second one is a dry monsoon forest. These forests are found in regions where rainfall is very low. I just told you a few seconds ago, the dry monsoon forest means in a place where the monsoon doesn't bring too much of rainfall, so the rainfall is always low. It is always between 70 centimeter to 100 centimeter. So most of these trees they shed their leaves in summer. So wherever we have the dry monsoon, the less monsoon, usually we have forests there, but still those trees are thriving when there is rain, and when the rain is over, what they do, they shed their leaves in order to keep the moisture with them, so that they can survive through the winter season, they can survive through the summer season. Okay, now what all kinds of okay, where do we find these dry monsoon forests? They are very common in Punjab, they are very common Haryana and East Rajasthan, Gujarat, West and Central Madhya Pradesh, okay, Maharashtra, Karnataka. So in these states we find the dry monsoon forest. So the dominant tree types, so the dominant trees that we have in the dry monsoon forest are teak trees, tendu, palash, khair, mahua, sisame. Okay, so large tract of forests in these regions have also been cleared for the agriculture. Since it's a dry monsoon, okay, so large part of the forest has been cleared in order to cultivate the land, okay, for the agriculture. Okay, right. Now with that we come to the third type of forest based on the vegetation, that is the thorn forest. The name itself suggests that this forest is full of shrubs, they are full of thorny bushes. Okay, why? Because we have very less rain here. So the here the rain is less than 70 centimeter per year. Okay, so monsoon do not bring so much of rain. No, so only 70 centimeter per year, and therefore vegetation is mostly thorny shrubs and trees such as babul, ber, khair. Okay, these kinds of trees they grow there. So this forest is sparse, which means very vast. Okay, with the grass and thorny shrubs growing in the samples and ample spaces between the trees. Okay, the space between the tree is taken up by the grass and thorny bushes. So we don't have so much of trees. Okay, trees they grow here and there, but the space between the trees, okay, they are taken over by the thorny bushes and shrubs. Okay, so where do we find these kind of forests? We find these forests in Rajasthan, Haryana, and the desert areas of Gujarat. Okay, so only thorny bushes and trees they grow in these kinds of forests because of due to the lack of moisture. Since there is no not much wetness, we find very less amount of trees growing there. Okay, right. The fourth kind of forest based on the vegetation is mangrove forest. Mangrove forest, because we find these forests in the coastal area because of the saltiness of the region. So here we have the both seawater and then the land. No, they interact with each other. Okay, always the land becomes so much salted. Okay, there's a high salt content, and therefore based on this high salt content we have a number of trees growing along the coastal areas. They are also forests. Okay, so because of the high salt content, these areas have special type of forest. It's called mangrove forest. Because of the high salt content, we call these trees that grow in large tract of land across the coastal areas are called as mangrove forest. Okay, so the roots of these trees, whatever grows there, are specially adapted to deal with the ebb and flow of the tidal sea water. Okay, usually the forests that we find along the coastal areas, the roots of those trees that grow there in those forests, mangrove forests, they are very strong, because they have to survive the waves and the tidal waves of the sea. Okay, and these forests are also called tidal forest. Their root is very strong. Okay, usually we have sandari trees, they grow in the mangrove forest. So we see here the sandari trees grow in Ganga and Brahmaputra delta. So what is the meaning of delta, right? So deltas are the places that are closer to the coastal areas. The main vegetation of the forest is sandari, kevada, and mangroves. So these kind of trees they usually grow in the mangrove forest. The last part of forest is montane forest. Montane, the very name suggests that these forests are usually grow, they always have in the high altitude mountains. Okay, so the vegetation in the mountains is different because of the high altitude and low temperature. So here we have trees growing in the high altitude. As you go higher, the temperature drops. Okay, so based on this, we have number of trees growing there. Okay, now in the high altitude, usually we don't have no level ground. Okay, so it is always stiff. Okay, so there is no vegetation and mountains are covered with snow all around here. So in the high altitude, snow is always covered. No, we don't have so much of plain land here. So accordingly, we find trees growing there. Okay, so what kind of trees that we have there? They are oak trees we have, and the branch tree. Okay, so these are the common trees that grow in the montane forest. So here the rainfall is higher in the eastern part of Himalayas compared to the western parts. So that is why the eastern Himalayas have denser forests and greater diversity in vegetation. So in the eastern Himalayas we have so much of rainfall than the western Himalayas. Okay, that is the reason why we have so much of dense growth of trees in the eastern part of Himalayas. Now that is why the jhum cultivation it thrives there. Okay, so with that we complete the types of forest based on the classification of vegetation. Okay, then we'll move on to the forest of Chhattisgarh in the next section. Thank you.